We beat creativity out of our children in exchange for repeatable excellence. We train our children in school to be able to memorize and repeat and be able to produce the same output over and over and over again. And by the time they graduate, the thing that made us, I think, human, that creative spark, has all but been beat out of them. And now that we can relegate the repetition, the repeatable excellence to AI, we can take that burden and shift it. Let that thing do that repeatable excellence over and over again. We're going to change the way that our children learn and grow. It's going to go back to the educational system. And you and I might be alive to see that first child graduating from an entirely different educational system that never takes the willingness to take risks, the creativity.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where the future of business belongs to those who see AI not as a crutch, but as a canvas for next-level creativity and lifelong learning. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. One of the biggest threats to your business isn't AI taking over, but you failing to adapt before it does. This episode cuts through the hype and panic around technology to tackle. What if the biggest threat to your business isn't AI taking over, but you failing to adapt before it does? This episode cuts through the hype and panic around technology to tackle what's really at stake, how businesses and people either evolve or get left behind. From the messy reality of integrating AI, complete with ROI puzzles and hidden pitfalls, to the very human side of it all. This conversation's a wake-up call for leaders who think they can keep running on yesterday's playbook. Of course, that's not you because you're here. We also zoom out to where it all starts, education. If schools keep cranking out expert memorizers instead of curious, creative thinkers, what happens in a world where AI can do the rote stuff better and faster? Spoiler alert, the edge goes to those who can dream up problems worth solving, not just follow instructions, because AI is pretty darn good at that. You'll hear why businesses need to document what they're actually doing now before layering on shiny new tech, and how learning from failures rather than just parading successes sets the stage for smarter, more resilient innovation. If you're ready to think beyond next quarter's tools and start reshaping how your company and maybe even your kids approach work, this episode is more than just insight. It's a nudge toward a radically different, far more creative future. Dive in. You might just come away rethinking everything. Our founder on Tuesday was Nick Froelich, founder and CEO of Ceratasa, a tech solutions firm that he launched in 2005 to bridge the gap between innovation tech and practical business applications. That's just as relevant today as it was then. On his episode, he highlighted the critical need for translators between technical teams and stakeholders, the myth of static SaaS products, and we all know that's a big myth, and why staying agile with evolving code bases and AI is key to long-term success. Our expert guest last week was Scott Anderson, author of You're Not Toast and founder of Double Dare, where he helps high-achieving professionals break free from burnout. On the podcast, he explored burnout as more than just stress, framing it as a perfectionist narrative that disconnects people from their values. So good. He also offered a structured path to lasting recovery through his burnout breakthrough method. If you missed either of those episodes, go check them out. My guest today is Evan Schwartz, global strategist at AMCS Group. Evan champions AI-enabled sustainability initiatives and next-generation SaaS adoption that unlocks long-term value for customers. Throughout his career, spanning roles as a chief operating officer, chief enterprise architect, and head of foundation services, he's become renowned for aligning cross-functional teams and steering innovation pipelines that deliver production-ready solutions at scale. Beyond the enterprise, Evan shapes future tech ecosystems as an adjunct professor and board advisor in cybersecurity and computer science, mentoring the next wave of transformative leaders. Welcome, Evan Schwartz. Hey, Evan, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Well, you've been at the center of enterprise transformation for, we'll just say 3 decades. So a long time, and
A long
lots
time.
and lots of things have changed over the years.
Yes.
What was maybe the light bulb moment that sparked your obsession with solving for SaaS misfires and scaling with purpose?
I would say you have to go all the way back almost to the beginning, right? Where there was almost skepticism that you needed a computer to do anything. And when companies started to scale and they realized there was a tipping point once you implemented some of these automation and digitalization systems, that I was burning the bridge behind me, right? In the early days, I'd become a partner in Infinite Energy. It was a natural gas. It was part of the Enron disaster, and they had grown exponentially, right? So they were a small natural gas deregulated wholesaler or trader. And then Enron fell apart and they went from 8,000 customers to 80,000 customers overnight. And there was still a lot of, some of your audience may know this, but back in the day, payments would go into a special lockbox that the postal service and the bank kind of co-owned. They would
Right.
scan everything, and then what you would get as a company is this brown paper bag of scanned batches of people's checks with their coupon if they included it. So on the outside of the bag was the total of the bag, how many batches in the bag, how many counts per batch. Here you go. And it's your job now to plug that into whatever it is that you're using to track payments. And
Right.
Infinite Energy had gone off the cliff because they had built this manual payment posting system where they had data entry guys, flipping through the check. UX hadn't even been a thought at that point. So on the screen for posting a check, to look up the account, the tab order was all out of place. You kept having to pick your hand up and grab the mouse, and it was exhausting. So they had a closet of 6 months of backlog where they
Wow.
were continuing to service their customers, but they had no idea whether that customer had paid or not. They just had to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And month after month after month, it was just getting out of control. And when you look at the way and that was a tipping point for that business, they may have come a little bit later or a little bit early because of Enron. But every digital transformation in SaaS hit that tipping point where you have to recognize, I can't run my business without a piece of software.
Wow.
I've reached a point where there's no going back. So that literally was the driving force for me getting into this market of trying to understand that, look, you can't just go from automation back office. There's an entire ecosystem around this, because you would solve the back office problem and then a customer would call and say, I think you misapplied my payment. And there was someone in the front office going, I don't even know how to look into this thing, this black box, to go and see how and then if it was, how do I take that payment out and put it in the right place? How do I do this? Right. So it started forcing businesses to look at the entire ecosystem of how they run their business. And it was painful. It was a painful exercise, right? Because everyone had their processes. And if you needed to, you just threw another body at it, right? I threw more people
Right.
at this, and they followed this playbook, and software changed all of that. All of it for businesses. And now businesses are maturing to a point where they recognize they need a piece of software. Startups now start with, okay, I need systems, I need software.
Right.
They don't even attempt to do it manually anymore. I mean, the average, even small one-man show is, I need QuickBooks. I need to at least start somewhere, right, with accounting. So the whole ecosystem is now adopted. I need something. And then you see these enclaves, particularly in the wealth industries, where I'm sourcing material out of the ground. I'm sourcing it from a tree. I'm reharvesting material, wealth industries, where I'm growing it up out of natural resources, that are having a hard time introducing SaaS. Because look, some of that equipment, some of that stuff they've used was built by the guy's grandpappy who designed that bark boiler 200 years ago. And the only thing I've ever had to do was grease the bolts and, scrape some rust off of it, and we're good to go. Those are very slow to change, but they're also realizing, at least at the executive leadership, they're ripe for disruption if they don't adopt, if they don't change. So now 30 years of that, of trying to get computers in places that they didn't want a computer, out in yards and, dirty places where they're bringing in raw materials and there's dust everywhere and they got to track everything. Finally got that across the line. Bam. AI has now come in and goes, oh, and by the way, here's another quantum leap. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to quantum leap we used to be about every 12 months, then it's getting to 9 months, and it's 10 months. We're seeing that leap. I mean, they're leapfrogging. All the big three that are investing this are leapfrogging each other. So I mean, I don't even think I got my head wrapped around the VEO video thing before someone else came in and said, I've already beat it. This is better than that one. It's like, right. Oh my God, how do I keep up with that pressure? And then you look across what Microsoft is doing today. I mean, you can't even get a product where they're not shoving Copilot in your face, right? That's Agentic AI. They're like, hey, look what we've got. Use this. And it's a powerful tool, almost looking for a reason to exist. So Gartner just released an article talking about how, there's a tangible, it's like a huge, 60, 70% of these Agentic AI things don't go anywhere, or they don't return on the investment, the vision that they had.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah. It's new. It's a new tech, right? And it's very expensive. We don't understand the consumption models yet. We don't understand the ROI. And it's because we're looking for new ways to use a new tech. And that's dangerous. Where the right answer is to go, I've already got something that I know works, but there's some pain points, there's efficiencies I'm bumping up against. Can I apply Agentic AI for that very narrow use case and break the ceiling here? And then as it matures, I can start to eat the elephant, right? And it's driven by investors. Private equity groups are like, put AI on everything, right? You're starting to see the AI whitewashing problem go across, which is just convoluting. It's making it difficult for evangelists like me to get adoption in something where now there's conflicting messaging. What is Agentic AI, right?
Right.
So those tipping points where businesses are struggling to adapt, but they're also seeing the point of no return. I have to go there. And once I go there, there's no way really for me to get back. That's a driving force for me in helping solve that problem for businesses, right? Because that's where the pain is. It's always in the adoption side. Side. I mean, no offense, the tech nerds like us, I call myself a conehead, we have an affinity for tech. I mean, I originally went to school to be a chemist. Was never a chemist a day in my life, right? I just fell backwards into technology. It was very easy for me. Yeah. And it took me a while to decide that this was my career. After 20-something years, I decided if I get my degree in it, I'm convinced this is what I'm going to be doing. But those are really the driving points that cause the most pain for businesses, and is the adoption and the point of no return, because it's terrifying. It's terrifying for a business to go, I'm about to adopt this thing, and I don't know how I will do business without it.
It really is. And especially bigger companies, I mean, because tech is changing so fast, and just because of size, once they try to adopt something, then it's outdated and obsolete by the time they get, a quarter of the way in. I mean, what do you do? Do you not take the jump? I think you have to, but I like your approach. We're really looking for, here's a problem that we can solve. And it makes sense. And I think a lot of software companies, I mean, we work with tons of founders. That was really the big thing that they were talking about early on, was, creating AI solutions or even AI companies. And they were a product in search of a solution.
Right.
In search of a problem, where can we apply this thing? And we wanted to really flip that. I mean, just like what you were saying, if you have an existing platform, figure out where AI fits into that. Where can you add value to your existing client base? Not, we're now an AI company and we're AI first and AI enabled, whatever it is. And now we're going and looking for a problem to solve, and with a new tool.
Yeah, it's dangerous for an investment like that. And I would urge early adopters, because that's where we are in the process, is early adoption, is do not set the bridge back on fire, because we don't understand the costing model yet, right? A lot of people talk about cryptocurrency and here's a token. Well, when you start talking to Microsoft on the costing model, it's processing units. Well, that feels like a made up whim. I don't know how.
Made up, for sure.
It's tokens of words. I don't know how to predict that, right?
Right.
What if someone says thank you to my agent, and now my agent's did I just pay for that? Right? And because I find
Exactly.
myself doing that. I use and I'm like, oh, thank you, very pretty, because you never know, right? I want the history to show I was very nice to this thing, however that plans out. But you're still human, right? So you instinctively are appreciative when anyone or anything helps you do things. Well, that's an unmeasured cost. No one's ever thunk their ERP system, right? There's no place for me to go. Thank you,
Yeah.
ERP.
They've said
Right.
a lot of other things to it, but thank you is probably never one.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a fair statement. But if there was, there's no way to do that. So these become
Right.
unpredictable cost measures that you have to factor in, that I might be dialoguing with something the same way I would dialogue with a customer service agent, right? So if you took
Sure.
that as a use case, and I was trying to build agentic AI to support my customer service model, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to replace all my customer service agents. And if anything, I
Right.
want to elevate them to a premium service, so they become my fallback. But I need it to be just a little bit better or as good as the human. And now I can tick the box on scalability. I just did a post on this off the Gartner article of, if you're not driving your agentic AI projects with ROI as the governance, and then you have to have a vision. Are you looking to scale? Are you looking for performance? Are you looking for automation, efficiency? What's the vision outcome of it? And then you have to put the guardrails of ROI around it, which means that you might build this thing. It has an unpredictable consumption model right now, because the big three can't really tell us really how much it's going to cost. And depending on the end use case, my ROI calculation is based on what? So I now have to measure my consumption. I'm going to have to cap it. And then I'm going to say, look, for this particular workflow, I didn't achieve my efficiency because my consumption costs reached a ceiling. I need to fall back now to my proven method and just get it across the line. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. Let's take that, put it on the shelf. Let's look at it. Where did it go wrong? Where could it have made a decision to off ramp, right? So you always want to give your agents the ability to divert back to the proven method for now, right? This is going to get better, and it will be diverting less and less, and you will be getting more and more as we all learn together. But when you're giving me some made up unit of measure, and I'm sure Microsoft would tell you it's not made up, right? I'm being facetious here, but I can't.
It's made up.
Well, I can't predict it. It's like, here's a bill. Tell me how many tokens I've consumed. Just pay the bill.
Right.
I don't know how to back into that, right? That's an accountant's worst nightmare. How do you reconcile that price? You don't. Right. So you just have to hope that there's a big enough margin built into your return on investment that you can make money. But if you see you're crossing the threshold, cap it and revert. Keep your current process in place and learn, right? There's going to be some learning. And I think there's a lot of people out there running way too fast. Just lathering AI on top of everything, put MCP on everything. Give me a co-pilot, a generative AI, and go. And, then you get articles like what happened there was a local Chevy dealership out here that had dropped a chatbot on their website, and the guy hacked the chatbot and got the chatbot to give him a car for $1. And then that was on their website. Yeah, exactly. And that's on their website, their agent saying, yes, here's the deal for you. I'm giving you this deal. And he went to them and go, this is what your chatbot sold me the car for. I want the car for $1. And they had to take the chatbot off because, right, that's the other problem with the generative versions of AI is they have infinite test cases. In the old days of software, I build a flow, I design it. Yeah, there's going to be some trons in the system of unexpected behavior, but it's still within boundaries. There's going to be
It does the same thing every time.
It'll do what I coded it to
do,
not necessarily what I wanted it to do. But then I refine that piece, and I can build quality controls around it. It's very hard to build quality controls around a thing that you could just work around the rules, and now I can go do everything. And one of them was they thought they had a complete set of hidden layer rules, and the guy just spoke to it a different language that the hidden layer rules didn't factor, and they got past it. I've said this to my customers all the time. My customers might not all be geniuses, but they're absolutely all diabolical. They will figure out a way to do something with my software I never intended. And now they've been doing it that way, causing a little bit of damage on the fringes. And I'm like, well, you're misusing the software. but they're like, well, I needed it to produce this output, right?
Right.
They're diabolical, right? And how, because human beings will figure out a way, and
Yes.
they'll crack a
Yes.
code to get to it. So to think that you're just going to unleash an unmonitored, unaudited entity, agent, generative chat GPT out there, that's just foolish at this point. I think we don't have the governance rules. We're being tricked more often than we're not. Right. It's just, it's still, but I still think there's tremendous value opportunities if you can manage
without
scope.
a doubt.
Manage scope. So anyway, look, at the end of the day, we're now at that threshold. It's rapidly moving. And I think the industry is hurting itself with this rapid iteration because it's causing paralysis at a certain segment in the business for adoption. They're like, well, I'm not going to adopt this thing because in like 2 minutes, they're going to have something more. So I'll just wait for that. Right. And that's where the frameworks need to catch up. I had a meeting yesterday with Dr. Minnie at Jackson University. I teach their data analytics and stuff. And we were talking about how to frame an education platform for the next generation where, are coders even going to be needed in 10 years? Right. There's real questions at university levels.
There really is.
And we were sitting down and talking about this. And it was the same kind of thing that got brought up as I was mentioning. And I'm not going to mention, but there's a variety of tools we were looking at that we could use to teach. And she's like, yeah, but those tools, by the time they graduate, these tools probably will not even be there anymore. And the point of the program was not to teach the tool, was to teach a framework and a skill on how to use it. There will be something better. LLMs will be plugged and play. The agentic workflow concept, whether you're using this drag and drop flow today or another one, the fact that I have an agent, I'm giving it a brain, an LLM, I'm giving it source material, I'm giving it actions and tools to use, those are still useful, right?
Yes.
The fact that those components under the hood have changed shouldn't matter to you. I'm building a new skill here. Prompt engineering. I had read an article, it was a video actually, where a portrait photographer was like, am I out of business? Do I need to go learn a new skill? And he went into ChatGPT and he crafted this prompt and it came back with this really bad picture. And so he went to Chat, he said, look, give me a prompt. Here's what I'm trying to get. And ChatGPT gave him a better prompt, which gave him enough of the words that he was able to factor, and he puts it, and it was in a remarkable image. It was black and white, dark. It had sweat coming off of a portrait of him. He had gave him a base portrait, and he realized that's where he needs to go. In other words, I couldn't have asked ChatGPT and understood lensing and flaring and spoke to it in a way that a real photographer that was trained in that tooling. It's going to be weird. You're going to be talking about lenses as a photographer, but never use a lens anymore.
Right.
Right. There's not going to be a real lens. And we do this today. We use words for tech that's already been gone and dusted, but we still use it in today's standard language. Right. And we carry it forward. There's just hundreds of examples of that we don't even know the origins of those words. And that's what's going to happen. So these guys that have these artistic views and this passionate creativity are going to be using ChatGPT with the tool because prompt engineering is going to become a skill. And I'm going to be able to evoke from this tool something that Evan couldn't do. Right? I wouldn't know how to ask it in a way to produce that thing you just produced. So therein lies the skill. Is you're just, they'd be like saying, I'm not going to pull a block of marble out because there's a better statue in there. Well, you still have to get a chisel to carve it out.
Right.
So that's all you're doing is it's just a different type of lens. And that was a realization that I had. I walked away from that video thinking through that I think that's going to be just about everything. Is there's going to be a certain amount of skill baked in now. How do I make this tool produce an output that I don't think that just everyone could do? I mean, I see all these guys online going, here, use this prompt, use this prompt. They're just copying and pasting. If they don't understand the premise behind the prompt, they're not really leveraging the tool.
I think it's really important to understand what it is it's doing. And just like you were saying, it's not about the tool itself in what you're teaching. It's the concept. It's understanding the framework. How does this work? Just like understanding basic, object-oriented programming or if then. if then else. And when you understand the concept, okay, I get what we're doing now. And now I understand, how that flows. So it's really the kind of the underlying concepts. And then you can apply that to whatever tool it is. It doesn't matter.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That is a great way to describe it, because programming languages have evolved for decades.
Yes.
Across every syntax and flavor, and anyone that's
Yep.
been programming for a while realizes the syntax doesn't matter anymore. After a couple of weeks, you know the syntax of Java, you know the syntax of C++.
Right.
All of the basic flow and constructs are there. And even though you understand the syntax of a language, there's such a massive variance between programming levels of what one programmer can do to the next. We're going to see that same value. Someone was, and I don't know where I read this. I'm giving you a bunch of stuff I've read and I don't have references for. So maybe they'll type it in on the chat. But they were talking about that the humans are going to become the premium service offering.
Yes.
Right. The agentic AI in that AI layer is going to be the default layer. But if you need to get to a human to get things done, that will become a premium service. So we need to just go ahead and accept that, so that we need to upskill ourselves. So when you're now paying a premium service to get a hold of a me or a you or someone else, that the value is there. I mean, it's perceived immediately.
What if a leadership book and a Netflix drama had a baby? That is The Captain's Keys, Storms, Emotional Wreckage, and a surprisingly practical leadership system that one CEO called the owner's manual and never got for 20 years of leadership. Here is the brutal truth. You're probably drowning in LinkedIn connections while starving for real relationships. I hear it all the time. Most leaders are exhausted from playing the lone hero, and it's killing both your results and your sanity. The Captain's Keys reveals a new leadership framework, the stability matrix, 4 specific relationships that prevent burnout while multiplying your impact. And this isn't just theory. It's a system that I've used to scale companies and taught over 1,000 executive leaders. So grab your copy today at thecaptainskeys.com, Amazon, or choose your own adventure, print, ebook, or audio. Stop drowning alone and build your stability matrix. Even IT over time, it used to be you had to, if you lost your password,
right,
you would pick up the phone and you would call IT. Hey, I need to reset my password. Okay, your new password is ID 10T.
Right.
And there'll be some people that get that and some that won't. And so, you have a human that does that. And now it's all done via email. Now you've got 2-factor authentication. You've got a lot of other things. And so it's one of those low-level, simple tasks that isn't done by people anymore. And I think we'll start seeing more and more of that. We already are in customer service. And all I need is the result. I don't need a person. I just want to get to the result. And it kind of started with, web forms and fill out the form. Nobody liked that. Chat, that was a whole lot better because at least you got some pretty quick solutions, resolution, whatever it was. And now I think Agentic AI is going to solve the phone queue problem and staying on hold for an hour, waiting to talk to somebody. And unless it's a serious issue, but then now because the agents are taking so much of that off of agent plates, then that whole time gets a lot better, and they're able to work on things that are more interesting, that are more complex. And ultimately, we just all want the problem solved. Whatever it is we're reaching out for, we want the information, we want the problem solved, we want the pricing, we want whatever it is, and want to buy the car for $1, but want to do that now. And so the faster we can get to that result, I think it will make overall service levels better. But then it lets the people really, I like that premium idea where the premium service and the things that are outside the box, the 10 or 20% of things that the agent can't do, that's what the people are doing. And they're a lot happier doing it.
Yeah. So Freddie Kavanaugh, who is our global CEO, had a great, I don't know where he got this from, but I got this from him. And he put it out during one of our sales kickoffs. He said, look, never forget that the customer is buying the hole. They're not buying the drill.
Yes.
Right. They're buying the hole. So you can talk about the drill all day long, but what they're most interested in is that thing making a hole. That's what they bought it for. So if you're not talking about the hole it's going to make, then you've missed the problem statement, right? And it's going to be the same way. And I wrote an article for Forbes. They'd asked me around where do I think the next generation software, and I think we're going to see UI go away. The days of us meticulously jamming in data into a form, gone. No one's going to be worrying about screens anymore. I think all that goes away. I think we're going to have so much sensor and AI and awareness. We already carry tracking, right? It knows everything.
Right.
It listens to everything. So it's just going to be context where I'm just going to walk into a room, a light's going to come on. I'm going to wake up in my coffee maker. It already tells me, hey, you're 23 minutes from work when I get in my car. I didn't tell it I was going to work. It just knows, right? So we're already seeing a lot of that context awareness occurring. And as we look at it for business, if you're doing deliveries and shipments, a guy shows up, it knows who the guy is. It knows why he's there. He's come to pick it up. Why does he have to type anything or pick up bill of lading? That's all. You can put that on blockchain. You could put that on some sort of secure digital thing. Why are we even printing the paper? Right. We know the guy. We know the truck. We know why he's here. Pick up the stuff. Get him out the door. Let's go. Efficiency. Right.
Yeah.
And so that is going to become the way we see the outcome today, but I think it's going to go all the way back to the beginning in the way that we educate our children. Today, our education system, and I'm going to use this term and it's going to upset people, but I'm going to say it anyway. We beat creativity out of our children in exchange for repeatable excellence. We train our children in school to be able to memorize and repeat and be able to produce the same output over and over and over again. And by the time they graduate, the thing that made us, I think, human, that creative spark, has all but been beat out of them. And now that we can relegate the repetition, the repeatable excellence to AI, we can take that burden and shift it. Let that thing do that repeatable excellence over and over again. We're going to change the way that our children learn and grow. It's going to go back to the educational system. And you and I might be alive to see that first child graduating from an entirely different educational system that never takes the willingness to take risks, the creativity, right? Because if you think about the way our school system is, I've seen it with my own children. One of my kids accelerated very quickly, honor student, super good, and immediately stopped taking risks because all he can do now is fail. Right. He's already achieved this great status that everyone pats him on the back.
I don't want to lose that.
I don't want to lose that. Yeah. Why would I take a risk at this thing and lose all that patting on the back? So now I'm only going to do the easy stuff. And I was like, it's taken me a long time to untrain that out of my own child to go, look, risks are important. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to give up. Keep running at it. Try to do the impossible things. I think that's going to become the norm for us. I think we're going to see an age of, I'm the optimist with AI, not the apocalypse of it. Yeah. I think we're going to see an age of humanity that is going to be so creative, so capable, and we're going to delegate, just like the industrial age where we had everyone in there working the same widget and we handed that over to machines and we evolved. Now, I think the vision of computers is wrong because I'm old enough to remember the black and white propaganda film talking about how computers, you'll only work a 4-hour workday and dad'll come home after 4 days and mom's going to have a robot in the kitchen, all that stuff. And I'm working like 14-hour days feeding this thing data, right? I'm already working for the machine. To tell me that the robots are going to take over, I'm already a slave to this box, feeding it every day. I do it. So I would love to see a day where the data is contextually derived, fed into the system, and we just get to be creative, right? That would be great to see.
Yes.
Maybe not my child, but my grandchild or their child come out of school not being beaten into repeatable excellence and memorization. Why would I have to do that? Everything's possible. Let's try it. Let's see how bad it is, right? Let's learn from that. And then let's see what innovation comes from that. Because I don't know about you. I've never learned anything from a success. I've only learned things from failure. In fact, the more tragic the failure, the more I've learned the innovation, going different directions. I have horror stories that still carry with me today. I'm defined by it.
Yes.
Right. And that's just, I think that's the positive outcome if we keep going down this track. I don't think there's a negative outcome to it. Yeah. But it is going to require us at our age group, maybe I'm making assumptions here at your age, but at my age group for sure, to have a little bit of, I need to go back and start again and invest in this. Right. I have to invest in some new skills. I have to invest in a different way of thinking. I can't just be, well, this is the way I've always done it. I always want to do it that way. Now it's going to be easier for the me's because anyone in the technology world is always innovating, right? You never stop learning as a rule by the industry you're in. But if you're in an industry that hasn't changed a lot, that's going to be tough to adopt.
Yes, without a doubt.
And then we come back to the adoption problem.
Yeah. I think change is hard, and adoption, we see it play out again and again, whether it's SaaS, whether it's AI, and that adoption, it stumbles not from the tech itself, even though that's changing quickly, but really, I think customer confusion, maybe, and just change, because change is hard. Why do you think it is that companies struggle so hard with knowing what they actually need and then adopting it and implementing it?
I would say, look, there's a lot, because having just written a book on this, and I'm trying to get this customer journey out that helps businesses build a framework around it, is you see layers. And there's a chapter in there where I talk about this company where I sat for 6 months at a conference room table with their top end subject matter experts. Here's what you need to do. Here's all the requirements. Here's what my business runs on. And we built all this stuff. This was back during my Baywood days. And we go out to the scale, right? And we're sitting there, and it's the mill, right? So they take trees, or chips in. If they have grinding capacity, they'll take trees. Otherwise, this one only took chips in, and they cook them up, make paper out of them, right?
Okay.
So there was only receipts. That's all we configured, because it's a mill, right? And there's an old scaler there, and his job's just to sit on the stool, because it was a driver assisted terminal. So the drivers would plug in. If they get stuck, he'd help them. And the very first thing is like, okay, that's good. How do you sell chips with this thing? I don't see a shipment or an outbound button on your screen, Mr. Wizard. And now I was a lot younger, probably a little bit more arrogant than I'm like, so I start to teach this guy the forestry business, the wood, but he's been there for 20 years. He's been there for 20 years seeing this, and I'm talking to him like he doesn't know his business. And he was very quiet and polite to me. It was a humbling moment. This is one of my mistakes that I've learned from. Probably should ask questions before I just make an assumption about somebody. And after listening to me drone on about the wood business and how they don't sell chips here, they just receive chips and it goes in the mill and they make paper. He goes, well, that's fine. There's a truck sitting over there with chips on it that need to go outbound this scale because the foresters just sold it. And I learned real quick at the next tier down that if selling a truckload of chips is worth more than making a jumbo roll of paper, they'll sell the chips to offset the wood costs. Now, they don't do it a lot, but they will do it because it's business, right? Why would I boil up chips and make paper when I can sell the raw chips more because it's commodity, right? And I'm like, guys, so I'm calling back up to this conference room pilot going, guys, I'm finding out from boots on the ground that you guys sell chips. Oh, yeah, we only do that every once in a while. If you do it once, I have to have a way to do it. Guys, help me.
How do we do it in the system?
Yeah, we're go live. I got to get this guy paid. So anyway, the point is that because of the layers, the higher up you go, the less they really understand how the business is operating. They understand at a conceptual level. They understand at some details. If you're not working at the lower levels, you're going to miss. So where is change the problem? We get out there and they don't even know that there's some access database sitting in a corner that's mission critical to running a $12 billion a year business, right? They're completely blind to it. Why? Because people are diabolical. The software that you provided didn't give it to them, so they built it and didn't tell anybody. And guess what? The people at the top is like, check, metrics are hit. Dashboard looks good. Right. Move on. I'm not asking questions. I'm not in your business telling you how to make paper. I'm here to sell paper, right? Yep. So the reality of it is when you start to layer and stack up businesses, the information starts to get diluted. And it's not practical during a sales call. It's impossible for the vendor to go all the way down to that scaler sitting at that scale and depose that guy to make sure that this business process that was given to them during the sales engineering meeting is accurate. So you hope that you're at 50%. So one of the first things I really advocate to customers before they buy a system, know what you have. Build your as-is architecture. Ask questions. Send out surveys. And allow for these type of things. Don't be, why did you build that? IT comes in and turns it off. Be okay with it. Your business is running. So accept the way that it runs today. You're about to go on a painful journey. So have your as is. That will help your vendor build a better to-be. And then you're going to have friction around the points of some people's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm 5 years from retiring. You're forcing me to change everything I know. Right. That's humans being human. Yeah. Right. So you're going to bump up against some of that. There's no getting around it. You have to quantify that. If it's all sitting in tribal lore, if the only person that knows that job is the person who's very resistant to change, you're in trouble, right? That's a risk for the project that you're going to have to factor in. So but to me, that's the minority of it. The majority of it is the business not really knowing how the business runs. You reach a certain size, and it's just a factor of growing up from a small business. A lot of these businesses, especially in the wealth, they start small, they grow very quickly. And as long as everything's running and metrics are hitting, I don't have the bandwidth to know everything. It's too big to know everything.
Right.
And it's a cost factor to put in the right abstraction layers at the right levels to get that knowledge. So the only thing you can do is when you decide or pull the trigger that you have to adopt something new, you have to bring in a new SaaS solution, have your vision statement. For crying out loud, have something that describes why the heck you're doing this. And it can't be because I want more money. That's not nearly passionate enough.
Not very motivating.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to have to get your entire organization behind this project. Pick 3 things that you can get in ROI. And the thing that you're moving at, those well-worn in pair of jeans that are ripped in the right places and feel very comfortable, took decades to get to. You're not going to find that unicorn in the market. And if you force your vendor to build a worn out pair of jeans to give to you before you go live, you'll never get it across the line. There was a German company that went $650 million and never got it across the line. I can tell you stories with companies in the United States, 75 million, just wrote it down, failed implement, will never get there from here. $30 million. I mean, across the big do everything, do nothing systems, because they can do everything. But those vendors don't run your business. To expect them to come in and know the nuance, the differentiator that makes you special, it's ridiculous ask. Right. So I've seen too many big customers that will buy a software and then hand the whole project over to the vendor and say, go get it. Let me know when you're installed. Yeah. And I'll come in and tell you what a terrible job you've done. And it's like, guys, this is your house. Nobody's going to treat your house better than you. Own your project. Set your vision. Set your metrics. Make sure that this is going to meet those things, but don't boil the ocean. There's going to be a point where you're going to have to manage change management, OCM, in your organization. We're not getting everything on the first rep. It's not coming. So the things that aren't coming, how do we get by with those? And then you work with your vendor on roadmap to get those things eventually, but we're going to have to live without that for a while. But we're going for this. And these 3 things are compelling enough to not have these 8 to 10 things day one. Right. And if you don't come at your new ERP system that way, it's going to be a painful journey. It just will. Right? And I'm seeing lashbacks in the industry now where we've gone from best of suite, all in one big giant system. It does it all monolithic to best of breed. And then they're realizing, holy crap, I've got 1,000 applications integrated in this thing. Right. I've got a whole army of people managing these applications. This thing's unruly. Back to best of breed, best of suite. Give me one system that does as much as I need as possible. And even there's the knee jerk is I don't want to change your software, right? That's a good mantra, but you end up doing it anyway. Or you end up building bolt-ons that do the change I built an integration of this thing. You're never allowed to change that because I hard-coded it to this piece of data.
Oh, that's the worst is those hard-coded changes. It should have been configuration. God. We've changed it. Now it can't upgrade. Yeah. And I've heard that horror story so many times. It's now a custom solution and they're stuck. So what do they do?
Yeah. Look, you're seeing vendors trying to adapt. Like at AMCS, we have an extensible solution. We're highly configurable. We're built to allow you to build plugins through data contracts. But, at the end of the day, it's still to a point. Sure. So once you go crossing that line and you're in the customization core. Yeah, you're changing core, guys. That's bad. Let's not do that. Yeah. Let's just change the periphery, like fill in the gaps. This is spackle, right? This is a spackle process. We're just fixing cracks. The walls needs to stay where the walls are. These are all load-bearing structures here. Let's not move these around.
Yeah. Well, what do founders do, particularly SaaS founders? They want to balance feature velocity with meaningful feedback loops. So they're really building the things that their customers want, but you have that loop where you're really working with them, not guessing.
Yeah, look, there's a trap in there if you're not careful as a founder, if I would recommend. So the trap could be is that you end up catering to the loudest account.
Yeah. And
And
that
what you would,
happens a lot.
yeah. And then what happens is you end up building something that works great for that guy, but no other customer would use it, right? So you get in a feature request, even for one of your biggest customers. My recommendation is you take it through a product marketing cycle. This is standard SDLC. I'm not asking for anything new here. And your product marketing group should go, I hear what they're asking for specifically. Is there a broader need in the industry that we can
Right.
fill, that we're able to build flexibility in that can achieve that outcome, but also has enough flexibility because I've now sent surveys out to a good sampling of my existing customer base, maybe to the market at large, to go, where do you see this new compliance thing coming? Maybe that's an ask, right? Compliance is usually an area where you get stuck in that trap because you feel like you have to do it because it's compliance.
Right.
I build a software, it's compliance, and now you're building something. But everyone's going to attack that compliance a little bit different. Particularly in the United States, I guarantee you compliance is, we have 50
Oh my
states, you're going
gosh.
to find 50
It's
ways
ridiculous.
to do it.
The way some of the
Yeah,
laws are written and interpreted, one
yeah,
says, the attorney says you have to do it
yeah,
this way. The other says, no, you can't do it that way. You have to do it this other way.
yeah. It's an unreasonable burden on
Yeah.
this
What
guy.
do
So
we
you
build?
end up, yeah, you end up getting 50 flavors of this. It's a concept
Right.
at
Right.
best. So if you're not taking it through that rigmarole up front to make sure that you're meeting a broad set, but you are either configurable or through extension. An extension is just a planned ability to extend. Don't customize. In other words, I've got all the data I know that he's going to need, and I'm going to have a data contract. You can build externally to that. And now all I need to do is honor the data contract. If I give you the 5 fields that I tell you I would give you, and then you give me back the 3 that I need from you, what you do upstream and what I do downstream shouldn't matter, right? That becomes the loose coupling point. That takes extra time. That takes extra energy. The customer that asks for it rarely wants to pay for all of that.
Oh,
So
of
you
course.
need to have, yeah, but the reality is you need to be good at painting the vision to that customer. I could build this simple thing for you. You're absolutely right. I could get this done in maybe 2 to 3 sprints, get it tested in a 4 sprint, have this thing out to you in 8 weeks. And then you're going to have now a custom piece of code that is going to have some tail on it for the life of the product, because you're going to build business process around this thing you just asked me for.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a point of friction for us ongoing. Otherwise, and this is where it just comes down to founder vendor choice. Reduce the price. Say, look, this is what it would cost for me to give you this exact thing right now. And I'm going to end up branching my code or some horrible thing.
Right.
I'll reduce the price, but I need to make this more market viable. Here's 2 things you get out of it. 1, because it's a more general offering, you can configure to do the exact thing you want. That keeps it your secret sauce. So that's now still your differentiator, because I'm not telling everyone how you've configured it and leveraged it and used it in the processes you built around it.
Right.
I'm
Right.
giving you a very general tool that I've given you a hammer. You can build whatever you want with a hammer, right? But this protects my core product to make sure that it's flexible enough. And now I have enough room on my side to make sure I never break what you built. So now you're no longer customizing it. You're advancing my roadmap. So I have to charge a little bit because I'm bumping other people to bring you forward.
Right.
But I'm not charging you full boat on a customization that now has a tail of costs and technical debt potentially accruing over time as we go.
Right.
And that is a tough sale for the same reason that ERP solutions are hard to roll out. Most of my customers are really good at their core business. They're not software people. They can
Yes.
describe the outcome they want, and they do that very well and often. And they give you a requirement document and they expect you to hit that exactly. But they don't know how to build software. So
Right.
if you're not protecting them from themselves on the requirements they're giving you, then you're not being a good partner to them. Right.
So important.
Yeah. And so within that process, they also might roll one of these things out at least the same group of people once every 5, 10, 15 years. So there's no real muscles. You'll be lucky if there's 1 or 2 people still in the company that remembers the first time they rolled this thing out and act as
Exactly.
guideposts, right? Most of these other people are doing this for the first time, even within compartments of the company. If it's a
Yes.
financial package, it's all the financial guys. If it's operations, it's all the operation guys. And there might be 1 or 2 old timers that remembers when we first rolled out the first system and what a painful experience that was. So those are hard to do because that's not their skill set. And
Yeah.
what I'm asking our customer, take ownership of your house, own the outcome, own the drive, but use me as a consultant. Let me consult with you. Let me tell you and at the end of the day, we're going to make decisions together. They're not always going to be right decisions. If we can't do something right, might as well do something smart, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're going to come together and make a decision on this to make this successful because this is a partnership. But the reality is trying to educate a business that isn't a software company why it takes iteratively so long. Why did I deliver and it have bugs in it and it had unexpected things? That is just a journey that you have to go on with that customer. And it's tough, right? If you're in a build capacity with a customer, it's tough because they don't understand it. Because in their world, they actually manufacture something. It comes out the other end and looks just like the thing they spec. Engineering is we shouldn't call software engineering, right?
Yes.
And that's the problem is if I have a very specific spec for a product, I'm grinding this up into metal or I'm creating chips or I'm creating brown paper. I have a recipe. Every once in a while it goes off and I have to shift it out the back end, but they generally get out the back end what they were expecting in that run.
Right.
Software's
With
almost the
very
exact
tight
opposite.
variances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're measured all around. And those, especially in those wealth industries where I serve and my entire career is served, they don't understand why software is not the same. They just don't understand it. And it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain because there's so many variations, so many variants, and the spoon feeding is a problem. You give me the happy path, I deliver the happy path. They go, oh, well, what about this? Oh, well, we didn't talk about that. Let me take that back, put it up on the bench, and put that in there. And then they see that, like, oh, well, what about this? It's like, guys, can we just get all of these? But they're not going to understand how to give me all of my requirements because that's not their day job, right? Some of this stuff they do monthly, quarterly, twice a year, once a year. I'm expecting them just to hand me a full design spec. That's not going to happen, right? You have to pull it out of them. And some things, they're not going to even occur to them until they're looking at it.
Oh, so good. Well, Evan, where can people learn more about you online?
You can go to evanjschwartz.com. That's I put all the events, if I'm speaking, traveling, if I'm doing book signings, any of that stuff, my background history is all there. So if they want to get in touch with me directly, I'm very approachable. I'm very passionate about helping businesses adopt software. I've been doing this for 35 years. It's been painful for that too long. And I'm trying to help build a framework that allows businesses to take in a framework that speaks their language so that they can take ownership of the rollout, right? No one's going to treat your house better than you. So own the deployment, own it.
So good. And it's incredibly valuable. Love what you're doing and making software so much better in implementation, less painful.
Yes,
And that is a huge, huge benefit. So thank you. And thank you for being on SaaS Fuel.
No problem. I enjoyed it. It's a good conversation, Jeff.
Thanks again, Evan, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Evan and AMCS Group at amcsgroup.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And of course, be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership, where we have full video episodes, shorts, outtakes, training, lots more things over there for you on YouTube. And thought leaders share. Share this episode with someone who's rewriting the rules in their space. This is the kind of perspective that really respects how hard that is. Everyone who shares this week gets a handwritten thank you note from the universe itself, delivered by a comet signed in stardust and forever boosting your cosmic karma score. Better than Xbox. How do you evolve from leading multi-million euro security budgets to co-founding startups that reinvent SaaS access management? Our founder on Tuesday has done just that. Ghazen Mansour, CEO of Technology Rivers. He's a sought after speaker. He's going to be sharing valuable insights on entrepreneurship, outsourcing, artificial intelligence, health tech, and some business growth strategies. It's definitely an episode that you won't want to miss. How do you revive a bankrupt beverage brand into a $400 million powerhouse and then do it again? Our expert guest on Thursday, Josh Sizemore, has built, turned around, and scaled businesses across industries for over 25 years. He's also led billion-dollar franchises, sat on major boards like Caltech and Goodwill, and built one of the top online marketplaces in the U.S. What lessons can we SaaS leaders learn from him? Oh my gosh, tons of them. It's a great conversation. Can't wait for that one. I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.